Good morning. Welcome to Learning with Friends. I am Pat Fairless from Fairless Stamp and Flair. And today I'm going to show a technique with you that I'm calling ink floating or floating ink. I'm not really sure what the official name of it is, but ink kind of floats on water, and that's what we use to color our image. So it's fun. It's super easy. There are a couple tips and tricks that I will share with you as I learned it myself, because these were the first cards that I ever made using it. But it's not hard, so it's fun, and it doesn't take a lot of supplies. So let's just go right ahead and get started. So let me first show you the card that I'm going to show you how to make this butterfly, a monarch butterfly. I Googled what's the prettiest butterfly, and they said monarch. I'm like, well, that's easy. It's kind of all orange. And you can see here how the color varies. And I really had nothing to do with that. That's just how it turns out when you float the ink on water. So the only supplies that you need are some re-inkers. You need Versamark because this is a stamped and embossed image. So we need Versamark ink. You definitely will want to use an embossing buddy. And it works best if you have a line image, not a solid image. And then some embossing powder, and you can use whatever color embossing powder you want to use. I'm going to demonstrate this one with the black because I think it will be easier for you to see. And then, of course, we need a heat tool, and we do need a water painter and some cardstock. And I tried it with different kinds of cardstock. This one I'm going to show you is watercolor paper. And I am going to show you one that I just am going to use thick basic white as well. So let's get started. Because I'm using watercolor paper, I do like to use my positioning tool. I have a Stamparatus. Stampin' Up! No longer sells these, but any positioning tool will work. So I'm just going to lay it here. I should probably just take this off from here, and then we'll put this on the tool. Hold it with our magnets. And this is just kind of, I like to do this. You do not have to have a positioning tool for this technique. When I make images or stamp images on watercolor paper, because there is some texture on this paper, I like to use a positioning tool because that way I can ink up my image twice, and will be assured that it gets in the same place. So before I do that, embossing buddy. Embossing buddy is very important. So we're going to get this well embossed. I should have done that before I even put it on my Stamparatus. Moved a little bit, but it's close enough. We'll just get it straight and put that back on there. You are going to want to use an embossing buddy because particularly if you're using black ink and you don't want any black dust around the edges, you're going to want to use an embossing tool. So I'm just going to give this a good press. And like I said, my watercolor paper has a little bit of texture, so I like to do this just twice to make sure I got a nice complete image and I didn't miss any spots. If you're using regular cardstock, probably don't need to do this. Once will be fine. So let me now take this, and I'm going to get this out of my way. We are done with that. And let's bring our embossing buddy in, or our embossing tray. And like I said, I'm going to use black embossing powder. You can use white. We're going to use silver on the next one I show you. I did not do one with silver. I don't know why it wouldn't work, and I think the card would kind of look pretty with silver. So we're going to go ahead and use silver on that one. And just wipe off any excess that you don't. Even with the embossing buddy, sometimes you get a little flecks. So just brush those off. The humidity did drop here a lot in southeast Michigan this week, but I do work in my lower level, which is a walkout, but it does tend to get just a little bit more humid down here. So sometimes the embossing part seems like it just wants to stick a little bit more. So then we're gonna emboss this, heat emboss. Sorry about the noise. Whoops. Not watching what I do. I'm trying to multitask. Oh, no, I think it just spit it on the floor. All right, we'll find it. I got too much stuff sitting on my workspace. Let this heat up. As soon as it starts to get shiny, then we can just move along. I tip it a little bit so I can see. This doesn't look like very shine is down here on this bottom one. There we go. Okay. Oh man, things are falling everywhere. Can you hear them crashing? I got a little couple flecks up here. We'll just have to live with it. It'll be fine. And now the fun part, and really this is what is the technique. So we're going to use some reinkers. I've got pumpkin pie for the butterfly, and I'm going to color the background just for friends. So I've got pool party for that. And you can put your couple drops of reinker either inside your lid of your ink pad, which is where I usually like to put it. Some people prefer to put it on an acrylic block. That's fine too. It doesn't matter. Whatever you have to use as your palette is just fine. I'm just doing what works best for me. Now I do have a little glass of water here. This technique does take a bit of water, and I'm going to try to make sure I keep this in the picture here, but I can't do it standing up. I have to sit. So now we're going to take our water painter, and you can see it push here will squeeze out water. We do want to wet this, and what I'm going to suggest is that you work in relatively small areas. Now I squeezed it, so I'm getting some water. We do want it to kind of puddle, but I'm going to do only one wing of the butterfly at a time. And with the watercolor paper, you can use more water than you would want to use if you're using like a basic white, or if you have any of the old shimmery white that we used to sell, that would work great. It handles water a little bit better than basic white. So now we're just going to take a little bit of our ink here, and if we think it's too dark, just squeeze a little water and get some more water. And where I put this water on the image, we're just going to dab at it. And the way you know you have enough water on your image is because the ink will kind of run. So if you need some more water, just squeeze it a little bit. Get it a little bit wetter. You do want to have a paper towel handy to kind of keep your water painter from getting too inky. And some of the colors will really, so I'm squeezing pretty good here. This is why I like to have my little glass close by so I can get it to be clean. Because we're not really after a water painted look, we're after an ink floating look, which means I want to touch this and I want my ink to just run where I go. So we're just kind of dabbing it. And I'm going to add a little bit more water. There's a good amount of water right down here. So if I hit that, see how it spreads in the water? And that's what you're after. You really want the water to carry the ink. And the embossing on here does keep your ink within the, pretty well within the lines. It was not much of an issue that it wanted to flow outside. I think that's why they embossed the image with this technique. So I'm just trying to get most of my color out of here. And we are going to wet this side now. That other side is pretty well done. And like I said, work in a relatively small area at a time so that the water isn't absorbed too fast. There you go. That one, I had more water. See how it ran? And that's what you want it to do, is you just want it, so just kind of dab ink into your water piles and let it run. You don't have as much control over the color this way, but when you just let it dry naturally, which is what I prefer, you can use a heat tool. The heat tool's gonna blow your ink around just a tad. But I think hopefully you can see there's some darker areas and lighter areas where it just more ran. That's what you want. You want it to really dry that way. Now, if you do think you got too much in a spot, you can always take your paper towel and just kind of try to dab it off a little bit. But for the most part, I didn't have really that kind of a problem. So now my butterfly is done. I really want to make sure I get all of this pumpkin pie ink out of my water painter. Because I don't want pumpkin pie onto my pool party background. So let me just continue to squeeze and brush it on my paper towel until it's clean. And a clean paper towel is always in order occasionally because it's hard to see when you're inking over. Okay, that looks like we're pretty clean. Now I'm going to go back here and I'm going to wet some areas around my image. So I'm going to squeeze and just put in some water up around the image. I'm not going to do the whole piece of paper. I'm just going to kind of do a little bit here and there. And I should have put my re-inker in my lid. So this is Pool Party. And I'm just going to pick up a little bit. I'm going to dab it where I put water over here. And here I think you can probably really see how that's running. And just dab wherever you put your water. Clean your brush a little bit. I could wet other areas with my inky water painter. I just found it felt then more like I was just watercoloring it because I had so much ink in my water painter. So I'm going to dab a little bit up in here. And now see, we got some orange that still ran. So let's just suck that up. And see how easy that came back up? I didn't get it out of my brush. So I'm going to stay away from that center area for the moment until that gets a little bit dry. It's not a bad idea to just, when you change colors, let it dry in between. But it's kind of hard to do when you're making a video because nothing like watching paint dry, right? I'm sure you don't want to sit and watch paint dry, so. We will just keep working our way around here. If you got an area that's a little darker than you want it, just go pick up some of the ink. And try to get most of this blue party out of here. I'm squeezing and brushing is kind of what I'm doing. So let's, I don't have it all out, which is fine because I'm just kind of doing it all over background anyway. And let's just drop some in there. You can see when I get, the more water I have in there, the more it runs. And that really is kind of what you want it to do. You want it to just go organically where it wants to go and not really push it where you want it to go. You just kind of want the colors to. Now I've got plenty of blue ink in here, so I'm not getting a totally clean water wash, and it'll be fine. If I was doing more detail areas, I probably would be spending a little bit more time trying to get my brush clean in between. But we're just doing a background. So with the background, it's not as big a deal to get it totally clean. You just, before you change colors, you want to make sure it's clean. In fact, you might even just want to switch water painters if you have more than one. So let's just finish this up quickly here. I'm going to squeeze a little bit to get a little bit more up on here. You kind of want it puddled. I don't know how else to describe it other than having the water actually puddling on your cardstock. And in here, I may just go in and just kind of scribble a little bit so I don't pick up any of the orange yet, but you don't want that totally white. Right. And once this is dry, we'll probably come back in here with a marker to blacken in the body a little bit. Let's give him just a little bit more. And I think really what I need is a little more ink. Oh, my ink's full of bubbles. Let's hit it now. There we go. It's going to get me a little bit more variation in color, which is kind of what I was after. If you just wanted all one solid, all the same color, then I wouldn't bother with this technique. So isn't that pretty? And that was quick and easy, right? So I'm going to set this aside and just let that dry. And again, here's the card that I did, that we just made. And on the inside, I just kept it very simple. Had a little scrap after I cut this down from my embossing, So Swirly embossing folder. I thought So Swirly seemed like it worked good with butterflies. I played with a lot of different colors, like maybe a colored cardstock, and everything I did just seemed to detract from the butterfly, which was my focal point. So that is that card. And for the envelope, I just took a piece of Pool Party cardstock and embossed it again with the same thing. Now I want to show you one more, and we're going to do this. I'll show you the card first. I actually have 3 more cards to show you. This is the other. We're going to color these poinsettias. This is from the Rustic Crate stamp set. A little more detail here, and I did not color the background. This was done on basic beige cardstock with, also with black embossing powder. Party powder. I have a powder and party in the powder. I also have one where I used white that I'm going to show you, but we're going to color this, and I embossed it already, so that we're going to step ahead here. I think you know how to emboss. And we embossed the first one. So I have got Real Red and Old Olive. And so let's do the Real Red first. I want to make sure my water painter is, yeah, see, we still got a fair amount of blue in there. I'll tell you what, I have a different one here. And I think I'm just going to switch to this one. This one's a finer tip one. I have not tried this, but at least I know it doesn't have any color in it. So, and maybe the fine one will work better. I probably should have tried this with this before. So I'm just going to color one flower at a time, or I should say add water to one flower at a time. And I might just do parts of flowers. This is basic, thick, basic white cardstock. So it does not manage water really well. So you have to be a little bit careful. Let's re-anchor on here. And I'm going to lighten this up by squeezing a little bit in here. And I'm probably just going to, yeah, this is, see how it, I'm just touching that with the tip of my water painter, and I have plenty of water on there, which is good because that's what we want it to do. We want it to run like that. So let's add a little water. This is one where maybe the little one will clean up a little bit easier too. I was curious how silver would look. Had no reason to think it wouldn't look or work or look. I knew it would work, just didn't know how it would look. But I thought for Christmas, that's kind of fun. Try to keep my hand out of the way so when I dab in there, you can see the color, how it moves. Now we can also, if it gets too light, we can always come back later and add more and get a little bit darker. So I'm going to try a little less water on these petals right over here. Still got some red in there. Now I did not get this pool, so let's add a little bit more. There we go. You can tell if it doesn't, when you touch it with the ink, if it doesn't run at all, and it just looks like you're coloring, then you probably don't have enough water. That's the thing that took the most, I would say. If you're going to try this, just pick a simple stamp and play with it a little bit, because the amount of water takes a little bit of practice, and you can see I don't even have it down yet either. But again, the good thing is, if you get too much, like I think we have probably a little excess here, just dab it with your paper towel, and then you can go back. Yeah, see, it's still running, so that's good. And with basic white, now I did use thick, as I said. I did try one with regular basic white cardstock. I would definitely recommend white anytime you're using water with a regular kind of cardstock. Just you're best off to just go with the thick. It's unfortunately regular basic white cardstock is not made to handle water. It's not what it was designed for, and it doesn't do a great job of handling it. So we have to be careful that we don't get it too wet, because it will really want to curl. I have a larger card I made, I'm going to show you. And on that one, I actually laid it under one of my large acrylic blocks to let it dry so that it would stay flatter, because it does want to curl. And that's just the nature of the cardstock. It's nothing we're doing wrong. It's just not meant to handle all that water. Okay, so I'm going to get some of this out of here. When you're putting on clean water, it's actually easier to see how much you're getting on than if you've got ink in your brush. It makes it more difficult to see how much water you actually have. Okay. Okay, the red is pretty well covered, and we may want to come back and touch that with just a little more red after a bit. So I am just going to set this aside, and I am going to grab my old owl. Thought I had the ink or nothing to put it on. I like to use my lids because then when I close them up, the ink just goes right back into the pad. But a lot of people prefer to use an acrylic block and use that as their palette. That is perfectly fine. All right, let's try the green. This is non-watered down green. Do you see how it's spread? That one actually worked about as good as you can hope. I love when that happens. Sometimes things work the way they're supposed to. Sometimes they don't. I think I missed a petal down there. But our poinsettias are going to need a little bit more red, I think, anyway. Kind of, I could call them pink poinsettias. But I think you mainly get the idea. Oh, that one went, look how that one went. Pretty much the whole leaf was covered with one dab. That fun? Yeah. And that's a poinsettia. So this one is pretty dark, so I am just going to pick up just a tad. I did not water down the old olive ink at all on my lid. Yeah, the leaves turned out really nice. So I'll clean this up and let's go back and just play a little bit more. Once I get the green out of here. All right, looks like we're cleaning. Paper towel. Double check and make sure. Yes, that looks good. So you out of the way. And let's grab, I'm going to add another drop of, oh, that was on, oh, that was all loud. Oh, that'd have been a mess. Not an unfixable mess as long as you're dropping it on the lid, but a mess nonetheless. Okay, so, no, I'm nervous, it's not red. All right, it's red. So let me see if I can just add a little bit of water here and there. Where was the petal I missed? Totally down here. And let's add a couple drops, kind of up maybe near the center. I think that's where I'm going to add some water, is up around the center, and kind of let it run to the outside. And right now, because I have plenty of ink in my water painter, it's kind of doing what it's supposed to do without adding a lot of water. The green seems to come out of the water painters much easier than the red. Okay, that one's not going to put a dab of that in there. There we go. Well, I think that gives you the idea of what ink floating is all about. It's basically getting your cardstock fairly wet and letting the water take the ink and just float on it. And then once it disappears or dries, it leaves a very nice, it looks like you're an excellent painter and you know how to blend colors. Because I know some of us struggle with that. We're not all true painting artists, right? So this gives a lot of variation. So let me get this out of the way before I lay card in there or something. And I'll move this out of the way, like that. And just take this inky mess right off from here. Now, I use a little bit of stickum to hold them down because they do want to move around on me. Okay. So get my stuff out of the way that is spillable. It can make a big mess. We'll move that way out of my way. And let me show you the other two cards. So this card was also made with the Rustic Crate stamp set. This is the stamp set. These are the poinsettias. I love this set. And I also want to play with the pumpkins. And so this was water. This used the ink floating with, again, pumpkin pie. I used Old Olive on this one and Daffodil Delight. And I think I played a bit with Lemon Lolly too. The corn's a little bit lighter. I didn't want it quite as yellow as the flowers. So that's that one. A little bit of an easy fun fold here. You can see this hello. This is not on dimensionals. This is just multiple layers. I put 3 layers of early espresso, die cut it 3 times in early espresso, and then I layered the top layer is this same designer series paper that's used on the background here. So that is that card. And then the last card I want to show you is made with Layers of Beauty. This is one of those stamp sets that come with masks that you can use to color. But this one I used the ink floating, and here you can see I embossed it with white embossing powder. It's a little more difficult to see. I think it's beautiful. I love how it turned out with the white. I just thought it might be difficult for you guys to see on the video. So, but I did want to show you, you can use white. I see no reason why you couldn't use whatever color embossing powder you want. And here again, I just colored the background just like we did around the butterfly. So here's the birthday card. And on the inside, the envelope, these were colored with Stampin' Blends. And you can see if you compare these two, they do look different, right? There's actually less shading on the Stampin' Blends than the shading that you can see on these roses. And that's just purely wherever the ink floats and it changes the shading. And you can see the same thing on the leaves. I think those leaves are shaded beautifully, but definitely different. These I tried to shade with my blends, but they certainly don't look the same, right? So it's kind of a fun technique, easy to do, and Let's go ahead and bring the other two cards back in. Don't even know what, here's my butterfly one. And the butterfly here that we did today is now still not dry. It's still watery. I don't want to tip it too much because it will run. But that's basically that one. I think the background's a little darker today than it turned out on this one. It does lighten a bit as it dries, I think. And let's see how this silver one looks. It's certainly going to look different once it's dry. And it is on basic white thick. And this was on basic beige. So you can see the difference. I don't know. I think I still kind of like the black better. It just pops a little bit more. And I don't know if that's because it's dry or what it is. The silver's, it's pretty. I think probably a little more elegant. But anyway, there we go. Those are our 4 cards with floating ink. And let me just wrap this up. We'll go back to my other camera here and say goodbye. Thank you for joining today. I appreciate you guys. I love to see your comments. So let me know what you think. If this is your first time, welcome. I'm really glad you're here. I'd love to have you subscribe and share it with a friend so we can all learn together. It's much more fun to learn with somebody else when somebody's kind of guiding you a little bit, or you can say, oh, I don't know how to do this. Wonder if it was shown in the video how to do this. And then you can show them. So again, thank you for watching today. Have a great rest of your week. I am off for some scrapping fun this weekend over with my upline on the other side of Michigan. So should be a fun Friday, Saturday, and who knows? Maybe I'll see some of you there. I don't know. She's got a huge team, so it'll be fun anyway. So again, thank you. Have a great day and a great weekend, and God bless. Bye-bye.